let's move on now to the Buffalo Bills and our training camp series preview. But before we do that, if you have not already, hit the subscribe button. Also ring the bell to get notified when we create new content. Ryan and I, we are doing a training camp preview for all 32 teams, including the Buffalo Bills, which you'll see today, where we go over why the offensive line needs to improve, and that's one of the key things that we need to watch. Also, how are the skill position players for the Buffalo Bills going to keep improving, and who's going to be the number 2 guy for Stephon Diggs. Also, Von Miller. Is he the same Von Miller? All those stories we're going to discuss here, but and as well with other teams' training camp previews. So to get notified of those videos, be sure to ring the bell and also subscribe to the channel to get notified. And Ryan, let's get into it here.
Let's do it.
That to me, when looking at the Bills' performance last year, they started off hot, but as the season went on, they just seemed to become less lethal. Especially on the offensive side of the ball, and I think some of that was led to by just some cracks coming in the armor of the Bills' offensive line. Some injuries came in, and what we've said consistently on the entirety of this channel since we started in 2021 was just their lack of a traditional run game. Josh Allen boosts their running stats just because of how athletic he is, and he's able to run out of the pocket. But when it comes to just running between the tackles, the Bills have consistently struggled with it. I think it's one of the things that they addressed in the draft was getting Osiris Torrance. They also signed Connor McGovern as well. And I think that those will be 2 additions. We'll have to see if Osiris Torrance starts. But I think those are steps in the right direction. And so improving that offensive line, improving the run game, I think is going to help out a bunch for Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs and the other skilled players when it comes to the passing game.
Yeah, well, I think specifically you look at just the division that they're in, let alone I think they have to play the NFC East and the AFC North this year, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong on the AFC North, but they're going to play a lot of teams with a really solid pass rush. And as the season wore on last year, especially when teams could get pressure up the middle and flush Josh Allen, they were having issues. You look at both of the Jets games, Quinnen Williams absolutely wrecked that that offensive interior in the first game and I believe the second game. And then I think you look at the second game with the Patriots, and they were really able to fluster Josh Allen by not getting him out of the pocket, but then not necessarily letting him scramble, right? So they would get pressure up the middle, and then they were able to kind of chase him down after that. And to me, that could all be somewhat neutralized if they could have a solid running game, like traditional running game of like handing off the football to James Cook or Naheem Hines is still there. Yeah, Damian Harris is the other one now.
Yeah,
so
Naheem Hines is also still there.
To me, I think that is one of the improvements that we've both been saying that they need to make lately. And then for me, also on the offensive side of the ball, I'm really curious who's going to kind of step up into that wide receiver or second option for Josh Allen, because Stephon Diggs has been vocally upset with how this Bills offense has been performing. I think that is part of the reason too why there was a lot of frustration in the offensive performance by the fan base come later in the season, was just because Stephon Diggs and that offense was not quite gelling how they used to. So that's going to be interesting to see. And like they did draft Dalton Kincaid, Gabe Davis is still there. It's going to be interesting. This offense, there's a lot more cracks in the foundation, I think, than people are letting on to believe.
Yeah, and I'm very curious to hear what the Bills fans' thoughts are on that, because I agree with that as well. It just seemed like throughout the second half of the season, they started to just get a little slower, a little less effective, maybe a little more predictable. Maybe some of that was still learning like the new offensive system. I mean, Brian Dable is not the offensive coordinator last year.
Yeah, it's Ken Dorsey.
Yep, and so I think that is going to be something to monitor here, because I think Kincaid can step in and be that guy. He could be that guy up the middle that they haven't had. Guy that Dawson Knox. He's probably maybe more your traditional tight end and have a lot more effectiveness in the red zone. While I think Kincaid can be effective up and down the field. You know, just with his length and his quickness and his overall ability. And so I think another thing, too, that we also started to see a little bit, and this was after Von Miller went down with his injury, was out for the season. But the defense definitely was not as I think tough to figure out. They definitely became a little more predictable, lost that edge. We saw that with the Bengals game in the AFC divisional round as well. Also, then too in the wild card round with against Miami Dolphins, it was the third time that they played, but Skylar Thompson led offense put up 30 something.
I think
points?
31. I believe. I think the Bills won 34-31. I believe.
Yeah, and so Von Miller is coming back. They did lose Tremaine Edmonds up the middle, and so they do still have some other guys like Matt Milano that's still there. They did draft Dorian Williams. So, but secondary is also getting a little bit older as well. It's just these questions and these doubts that can creep into like the Bills have dominated this division now for 4 years now.
Patriots won it in 19. Bills won it in 20, 21, and 22. So 3 years.
Okay. But even in 19, I'm pretty sure the Bills made the playoffs. I think that's when they lost to the Texans.
Yeah, right? They were a wild card. Yeah,
they've still been relevant now for 5 years, but just haven't been able to make the hump. And you're now starting to kind of see some of that turnover a little bit as well. So I'm sorry, not turnover, but maybe like the end of the life cycle.
Yeah, well, so one of the things I think we're going to see why the Patriots dynasty was so impressive was because they not just were good, but they were good for 20 years. And it's really hard in the modern NFL to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Because Bills didn't have as much cap space this year, and so they were kind of on a declining year. And then now they can't necessarily replace some of the weapons. So it's just interesting to watch and kind of see how things are going. Also on the defensive side of the ball, I don't know if you mentioned this, but they lost Tremaine Edmonds, and he had a really good season for them. And I think he was one of the more underrated pieces. And they're going to try to replace him with Dorian Williams. That was really the only other linebacker. Yeah, that was the only linebacker that they added. And he was a crucial piece. He was kind of the glue that held that defense together, especially after the Von Miller injury. And so I'm really curious to see what this defense looks like because they gave up, I believe, 28 to the Patriots in week 18, then 31 to the Dolphins, and then they lost to the Bengals in the divisional round.
A snowy divisional game.
Yeah, in a snowy divisional game. And
they think they put up 27 on them. Or something like that.
And so I'm really curious to see kind of what happens with this defense because, if this offense is good, but this defense sucks. Like they're one of the worst defenses in the league. This division it has some really high-powered offenses. I think New England is going to be one of the best, most improved offenses. That's not saying a whole lot, but they're going to be one of the most improved offenses in the league. And then you have Miami and New York, who more than likely will be top 10 offenses in the NFL.
Yeah, I would bet on that.
Yeah. And so like that's a very hard thing to go and face with a bad defense.
Yeah.
So
I think that's kind of the moral I think of the training camp storylines like to watch is these cracks that we've started to slowly see that are getting a little bit bigger on this Bills team as a whole, offensive line. Second consistent second weapon. Not saying like I like Gabe Davis, but he just wasn't consistent last year.
Yeah.
Can he improve, or is Dalton Kincaid going to take that spot? Can Trent Sherfield take that spot? And also then too, how are they going to fill the cracks on the defenses on the defensive side of the ball as well? It's just how are they going to fill these cracks so then they can maintain their dominance because the AFC is loaded, absolutely loaded. AFC East is now loaded, especially with Aaron Rodgers and essentially the same Miami Dolphins team last year, and hopefully with a healthy Tua and all the concussion issues are in the past. Like every divisional game is going to be tough. Every single game every week is going to be tough, especially if they're playing the NFC East. It's how are they going to seal up those cracks so they can maintain their dominance? Because it's possible that they don't make the playoffs. I really don't think I think that is a huge possibility. So
they are. I believe they are still the betting favorite. It cannot be by a large margin.
To win that division.
Yeah, I think the Jets and Dolphins maybe have to be plus 100, and maybe the Bills are minus 100. That is probably the difference.
No, it's close. Yeah, it's definitely close.
So it's going to be really interesting, I think, to watch how this season plays out in the AFC as a whole, because it really is it's a 4-horse race this year. New England, I think, is definitely the least likely to be up there, but you have 3 teams in the Bills, Jets, and Dolphins that are neck and neck right now. And if I'm a Bills fan, I'm a little scared that this is the year that it kind of starts to really fall apart. So yeah, but let's go ahead and wrap up the Bills training camp preview there. Let us know down below what you think of the Bills going into 2023. If you think they're going to be really, really good, let us know. If you think that they're going to fall off, let us know. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.